everybody, welcome back to Hold My Lenscap. Today we are going to be doing a preview of Samyang's newest zoom lens. It's the 35 to 150mm f2 to f2.8.
We're only doing preview because this is a prototype model, so it's not the final version, but let's do it.
I wanted to say roll intro.
Go on then.
Roll intro! Okay, so first of all, we have to address the elephant in the room.
What?
It's not you. This one. You know, like...
Oh, the thumb.
Uy.
There is another lens that's very similar, same focal length, same aperture range, and from the outside it looks very similar to that. I admit that if you put them next to each other, then they look very similar. But if you check the specification sheet, then you can see that in the optical formula there are differences.
And when we asked Samyang to clarify about this one, they said that this lens is a Samyang original.
We're not going to do like pixel peeping and taking out the board for sharpness test, and all the tests here what we do today and all the photographs, just remember that this is a prototype lens, not a final version. Even though the final version will differ a little bit because of the red ring will be more hidden, so there's gonna be changes. And also with prototype lenses, the factory machines are not fine-tuned all, so there could be like small errors with these lenses, like a little decentering or anything. So all the results we got, just remember, is from a prototype lens.
So this lens has all my favorite focal lengths that I'm using for my portraits, so that's the first thing we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be taking some portraits.
And because this lens is, in my opinion, good for landscapes as well, then we will go to the Peak District and take the portraits there. So a little bit of hiking for you, darling.
I hate hiking, but let's go. Now we are here in Montour to take really nice epic view portraits, and this lens is going to be really perfect for that because it has all the focal lengths you need to do portraits. So with this really nice view, I could shoot a wide angle, which is a 35mm, or if I want to have a little bit more subject separation and more intimate, more detailed shots of my model, I can go all the way to 150. So that's really perfect. So just here up on the hill, which is kind of tiring for me to go up because I'm really unfit for this type of places, but anything for photos, right? So that's over here. I have Abby here. You've seen her from my Wanted Drive. I mean, she's been on many of my videos, so I'm sure you know her already. She was in my 135mm from Samyang, and today she's again going to be with the Samyang 35mm to 150 f2 to 2.8. So we're gonna just shoot some nice epic shots. She's got nice skirts on, and we got like flower prop as well. So we're just gonna work on the weather. It's a bit like drizzling right now, and it's really well because it's the small drizzle and it's filling up all my glasses here and I can't really see properly. So let's start the shooting. Let's go. Oh, you gotta see this. Look at that. Wow. Oh, it's gone. It's gone. Let's do the full view. There.
I look like a farmer.
That is so true.
Just like put on a wedding dress.
Oh yeah.
Stumble around.
Ah, this is the kind of like places you want to go to if you guys gonna get married, right?
Oh god.
Oh god. On a hill. No, not get married here. One of the issues when you're buying a lens is the lens flare when you're shooting backlit photos and direct to the sunlight photos. But luckily I don't have that problem because there's no sunlight in the UK. I mean, look at this. it's all gloomy in here, so I don't need to worry about that. So that's a great plus. Thank you, UK. First impression, I'm really loving this lens already because it has all the focal lengths that I need to take portraits. So from 35 to 150 millimeter. Sharpness wise, I can only judge it through my viewfinder since I still need to look at this in my computer. And with that, it is pretty sharp already. And with the bokeh, I love it. I mean, I do love shooting prime lens, especially from 85 millimeter because I just love the bokeh. My husband doesn't like it that much, but I do. With this one, it's just amazing. So we're gonna shoot more and then test the different focal lengths of this one, and we're gonna have to like walk this path right here and then find a location there. So let's go. So the Samyang 35 millimeter, 35 to 150, sorry. So the Samyang 35 to 150 millimeter has a Dolly built-in feature. So, oh, how do you even explain that thing? So the Samyang 35 to 150 millimeter has a Dolly built-in feature. So basically, as you go closer to your subject, it keeps your subject in focus as you zoom out. Keeps your subject the same size as you go closer and you zoom out. Do is basically the Dolly is you can only use it, not only, no. So the Samyang 35, I don't know how to say sorry.
So someone can't deliver their line, so let me just do it for you. So basically the Samyang 35-150 has a very nice built-in feature, and this is Dolly zoom, or also called Zolly. Basically, Zolly is when you going close and zooming out and keeping your subject the same size. If you have seen the movie Jaws, then you know what I'm talking about. Now, the challenge with that you need to zoom and focus and move forward at the same time. So Samyang made it a little easy for you, because when you switch to manual focus and the custom switch to 3, then as you set your focus with the focus ring first, when you, for example, zoomed in to 150, and as you move closer and zoom out, the lens itself will change the focus for you to maintain the same subject size. So it's really easy. We're gonna use this feature now. Alice is going to shoot Abby at this location to show you the different focal lengths. So we're going to use this feature that first we start with 150 millimeter, set the focus, and then as we zoom, we just go as close until Abby is in focus, and then we know she's going to be the same exact size on all the frames. So you can see the difference if your subject is kept the same size, how the background is changing, how it becomes different, how more compressed in 150 and how much more you can see in 35.
My fingers are literally frozen. Wow, I can't feel my fingers, mate. Yeah, that's a 35 mil. So we came here in this forestry area to check out the bokeh, because here we can really see that there's a lot of distracting elements around here. So that is the perfect way to test the bokeh of this lens. And what makes it perfect is that you can include a lot of the surrounding, because it starts from 35 millimeter. And if you want like really bokeh-licious, you can shoot from 150, and it's just so beautiful. I mean, I really love shooting at 135, and with this one it's even better. So I'm gonna shoot again a close-up for this lens to see the minimum focusing distance of this one, and we're gonna see how close we can shoot with this lens. Is that okay? That's really close though.
Yeah, but why would you do that?
Why would you do that? That's just wrong. I'm not gonna do that. So first I'm gonna do a close-up shot at 150 millimeter to see what we get. This really nice bokeh-licious at this focal length. It's just beautiful. I mean, this is the focal length for me, 150. And then I'm gonna go to 100 and keep the same composition. It's still nice blur background, but obviously you can see more of the background elements as well. I'm gonna go to 85mm. My first favorite prime lens is an 85mm, so this is when I started loving bokeh, like really love it. With 50mm, more background elements are showing, so like the trees are more prominent. I can see them like dark lines there at the back, and it's quite distracting already. Well, if you're shooting in places like this, you kind of want to have a focal length that's really blurs out the background, because unless obviously you're including the background element for your photos. So now I want to see how close I can go with 35mm. I mean, you don't go close on a 35mm because that will distort the face, but for the purpose of this video I'm gonna do it anyway. Okay, that's still focusing. By the way, the AF of this lens is really good. I mean, I have no complaints about it. It picks up really well on my subject, and I'm really loving that. What I'm not loving right now is my height, and I'm really short. So I'm gonna go real close. Oh, that's still focusing. Amazing. Am I too close in your face? Sorry.
Don't poke her in the eye.
I want. There you go. I mean, I'm not sure for what purpose you're gonna be doing that close to someone's face, but don't do it. But we're just trying to test the minimum focusing distance of this. Okay, let me frame properly, because okay, so 35mm is more for this kind of photo, but because it's showing a lot of your surrounding, you have to compose properly, especially in places like this, because there could be like trees coming out of your subject's head, which will not be good. So you'll really have to consider where you're shooting your photo, otherwise it will come out really bad. So we just wrapped up the portrait shoot for this video, and I can say that I've really enjoyed using this lens because I don't need to bring so many lenses with me, because normally I would bring a 135 and then maybe an 85 and then a 50 and then another wide angle. I'm just bringing one lens, which is the Samyang 35-150. I've got all the focal lengths I need. I can do wide angle, especially on locations like this, and if I really want to have a nice bokeh-licious photo, I can zoom all the way to 150, which is just amazing. So we're gonna go home and then we're gonna review this lens even further. Let's go.
This 35-150 is a really good lens for portraits. Technically, it has all the focal lengths you need for a good portrait shoot. 35 for like full body shots, or 150 for close-up portraits, headshots, and obviously anything between. But should we just categorize it as a portrait lens, just put the label on it, portrait lens? I don't think so. This is a very versatile focal length, and the lens itself is very versatile as well. You can use it for street photography, but it might be a little too big, catching a bit too much attention. But if you do it properly, then that won't be a problem. But with 35 you can do some very nice close-up streets, and with 150 you can do from far very nice candid streets. So it covers you for everything. Also for landscapes, this might be a really good choice, because you can do like a nice wide area, like when we were in Montauk, I used to take some shots there, and then from the same place I could zoom in to 150 and get some very nice detailed shots, which is really great, really versatile, so you can get a lot from this lens. You might argue that it might be a bit too heavy for landscapes, but let me debate that, because on its own, yes, it could be a little heavy, but what is your usual landscape lens or the usual landscape setup? So one of the main setups people are using is the Holy Trinity, 1635, 2470, 7200. But I would argue that this lens can replace your 2470 and 7200. 1635 already going till 35, so the 35 starting is not a problem. And then 150 and 200, I would argue that there's not that much difference when you go into landscape. You can always crop if you have to. And if you want to shoot wildlife, then you just put a third lens like a 150-600 from Sigma or 150-500 from Tamron, and then you cover it with everything, or you can go for the Sony 200-600. But if you don't have a 16-35, you can still put a 24-1.8 from Samyang next to it, and there you go, you cover it from 24 to 150. So as you can see, on its own it might be a little heavy, but because of its versatility, it can replace two lenses, two heavy lenses. So I would argue that this is one of the most versatile lenses out there. So the weight of the lens, well, it's a little bit over 1.2 kilos, and as you can see, it's a hefty lens. So when you zoom to 35mm, it's about 1.2 bananas, and when you zoom out to 150, then it's about 1.5 bananas. So it's like a really hefty, good size lens. But now build quality, it's quite raw. It's a really solid lens. Probably you know that the 24-70 f2.8 from Samyang was criticized because of the build quality, because some users experienced that at the metal mount, the lens snapped because it was attached to a plastic body. This lens has a full metal barrel, so Samyang addressed this issue. You don't have to worry about the same, hopefully, but time will tell. So when it comes to features, it offers quite a lot. It has two focus hold buttons, which will be a focus save if you switch to manual focus. So technically you can save a focus point, and anytime you just tap the button, it will go back there quickly. So that's quite handy. You can use it for astro, you can use it for many things. It has a custom switch, just like Samyang's latest lenses, but this one has 3 stops instead of 2. You can customize it via the lens station, but by default in AF mode, it's doing the same as all the others. At 1, it does technically nothing. At 2, it acts like an aperture ring. 3 is ignored. You can put there anything you want. Now, when you come to manual focus, because this lens has a dedicated AF MS switch, that's the first for Samyang. When you switch to manual focus, then the first is just normal manual focus. When you switch to number 2, then it will become linear manual focus. So the focus ring will have a nice 300-degree turn. So you can do a nice, very precise, repeatable manual focus. And the interesting thing is when you turn it to number 3, which we already explained to you, that's the Dolly zoom mode, which is kind of like unique for this lens. Today is a very unique and rare day here in the UK because we have that big yellow bright spot over there. So it's a perfect opportunity for me to ask Billy Fury to help me out and test the flaring on this lens.
So let's see how this prototype lens performs when it comes to flaring and ghosting. And as you can see, at 35mm it's quite okay. There's a bit of ghosting, a bit of flaring, but I would say nothing major. But once you stop down to 85mm, you can see that the ghosting becomes much more pronounced, and the flaring as well is more visible, losing a bit of contrast there. And at 150, flaring is quite strong, and the ghosting is just really there, really disturbing. But remember, this one is only a prototype lens, so the final version might differ here.
So this lens has a variable aperture. It starts at 35mm as f2.0. Then at meaning of life is changing to f2.2. Then at 60mm it goes 2.5, and from halfway, 75mm, all the way to the end, it's f2.8. So while you might argue that this lens is a little bit heavy, a little bit big, it's balancing really nicely. I mean, I can hold it easily with one hand. I can still just touch the controls and use it very easily. Even at 150, I don't feel like that it's like dropping to the front. Does it mean you can put it on a gimbal? Most likely yes, if you have a strong enough gimbal first. And the second, that because it's quite a long lens, you will need a gimbal where you can pull it all the way back. For example, we have a Giant VBL-S, and unfortunately my camera is hitting the back of the Giant way before I can put it in balance. But if you have like a big gimbal where you have more movement, then yeah, I would put it on a gimbal anytime.
So it's the end of the day and it's the perfect place and time to test this lens for the Bokeh balls here at the Royal Albert Docks, because as you can see these pillars have lots of LED lights on them, and in the background you have lots of lights that gives me a nice spectral highlights. And I'm going to use the Dolly zoom feature again, just like we did with Abby, and I'm going to use a model for this shot, so I'm going to keep the model at the same size and move the camera accordingly. And my model today is gonna be Alex from Minecraft. Whee! So when it comes to the Bokeh balls, you can see that this prototype lens performs fairly average. You can see that the Bokeh balls are quite busy. You see some onion rings and also the edges are very pronounced, so it's, I would say, a typical zoom performance. And in the corners you start to see the cat eye at 150, almost only the center is perfect circle. When you're stopping down the lens, you start to see the polygon shape at f4, f5, 6 a little bit, and f8 and further it's more pronounced. And when you further stop down the lens, the sound start to kick in, and because this lens have 9 blades, they are quite pronounced, so it could be sometimes a bit disturbing. So that's it, now we back home, and we dress the same as in the intro, so yeah, it's not recorded at the same time, not at all.
No, I don't do that.
Well, we never. What's your opinion on this lens for portraits?
I love it a lot because I can switch the focal length very quickly. Because normally on my portrait shoots, I will bring a few different prime lenses since I'm normally just using primes. So I would have from 24mm all the way to 135. But with this one, I can change very quickly. So this is really perfect for fast-paced shooting where you don't really have time to keep changing focal lengths, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and as I said, for hiking as well, I find it a very good lens because it can replace 2 lenses. So we have the 24mm, which I should have prepared. Where is it? So here it is. So this is the little 24-1.8 from Samyang. It's a very good lens, good for Astro as well. It was the first for that, and it's a very lightweight, small lens, good to scare the wife. And pair it with a 35-150, and here you go. You get a very light, technically lightweight setup for landscapes. So all you need is this and love. We're in Liverpool, you know. Beatles, all you need is love. So how do you feel handling wise, like, you know, just using the lens general?
I think it's a little heavy because I'm normally, as I said, I'm normally using prime lenses, so those are normally very lightweight lenses. But the thing is that during the shoot you don't actually think about the weights, because I was more concerned on how I'm gonna take the photos. But after 2 hours of shooting, I start feeling it, that yes, it is a bit heavy, and it's probably, you're right, the way I hold the lens.
I wonder why it feels heavy.
It's very comfy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I agree, because when I was walking around in Peak District at Mamtor and used it for a while, you can feel it that you're carrying a heavy lens. But if you have something like a clip, like the Peak Design or the Falcon one, which I'm using, then you can just clip it here when not shooting, just walk around and then just take it off when you need it. So that way I don't felt the same, like,
Oh
you
yeah,
are,
because
you
I'm
are
hanging
constantly,
it.
yeah, or either on your shoulder or in
Yeah.
your hand. But if you would have like many lenses, like you would take like a 35, 50, 85, 135 to cover all this range, then your backpack would be quite heavy, isn't it?
It's going to be, yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
I felt a bit
So-
spoiled with this one.
Yeah, so overall, again, the focal length is replacing. If you put them together, then that's going to be heavier than this one. And as I said, I don't think that it's front heavy, or it's actually very well balanced. I was checking. Oh wait, let me show you.
Again.
So what we have here is a little collar. Unfortunately, Samyang doesn't offer a collar with this lens, which I'm missing a little bit. But you can get these eye shoot collars. This one is for the Sony 135 lens, but it's just good for many of the Tamrons, almost all the Samyangs, and many of the Sonys as well. So that's the normal one, and the one I'm using that allows me to put it like this, portrait
So
mode.
cool.
That's the eye shoot for the MC11 adapter. So it's a third party, so no official support from Samyang or anything like that. I wish Samyang would release something like this, but until then you can use this third party. And as you can see, that the lens is roughly balancing around this silver ring. So now you can see that it's not tightened, but I can balance it fairly well. And at 135,
150, you mean?
yeah, 150, that's what I mean. But yeah, roughly around the silver ring is where the balance, so you can see that it's not tightened and it's staying there. So I just wanted to quickly show you that you can see that this is not front heavy at all, unless you're holding it like this.
I didn't say it's front heavy.
Yeah, right.
So how about you? What do you think about handling this lens so far?
I like it. I mean, it's a really, for me, I really like the feel and how it holds. I love the fact that it has the focus ring from VF lenses, so it has the same texture. If you want to use it with a focus pull, brilliant. To be honest, I'm missing it from the zoom, so maybe not as featured like here, just a tiny bit. So you know, you don't need to add one when you're trying to do, for example, the Dolly zoom. It would be easier to just use a focus pull. One thing that just bad design. So as to say that this one has a lock for the zoom. It's only locking at 35. I wish it would be like any focal length technically, but
That would be so nice.
yeah, well, it's for when you're traveling with this lens. You just drop it in your bag, and when you're taking it out, it doesn't zoom. It doesn't have zoom creeping, so I have to really shake it, as you can see, to have the zoom creeping, but you know what I mean. So the annoying thing about this switch is this, hidden under the lens hood when it's turned back.
Oh.
That's just, so every time when I use the lens, you have to either leave the lens hood at home, or you have to turn it around, which you don't use lens hood too much, and honestly I don't use too much. With the lens hood, I wish it would have a little window here for the polarizer, so you can turn it easily, because now you have to go in, and that would make it easier to swap my magnetic filters as well. So I think this is going to stay home most of the time, just like all the others.
They go missing with me too.
Yeah. Yeah, because if she takes it, then it's gone. So as I said, we're not going into detailed pixel peeping and all these kind of things, because this is a prototype lens, but I did test it for some uses, like infrared and also for astrophotography. And for infrared, I found that 35mm has a bit of hotspot straight away from wide open, but as you zoom in, the hotspot gets less and less noticeable, up to like f8. So I would use it for infrared. But the 2470 f2.8 from Samyang is performing a little bit better. When it comes to Astro, yeah, it's a bit heavy lens so you need a proper tracker if you want to track it. I don't have one, so I only use it for like just shooting randomly at the sky and see how it performs. Now on 35mm you have a bit of astigmatism, so you get the angel wings and a little bit of coma as well, and at 35 you see a bit of chromatic aberrations, purple fringing as well. At 150 it's very good. I really like this lens at 150. It won't be your go-to astrophotography lens because it's a bit heavy, but again, if you're just hiking and have like a smaller tracker that can still handle this one, then you can get some astral shots, because at 150 the astigmatism is almost completely gone and the coma is just barely visible, and chromatic aberrations like maybe on the edges very small amounts, so that's again a big bonus for this if you do astro. When I was out, I just wanted to see the sharpness, you know, so I had a very nice bright moon, so I was shooting that, and to make sure that I have the best focus, I used the Patinov mask. And
On the moon?
No, on Uranus, because it was very shiny that night.
What?
What? My results on the moon, when you go to the center, then f2.8 is very slightly soft, and it gets better at f4, f5, 6, and obviously diffraction will kick in around f16. APHC corners are almost as good as the center, so that's a pretty impressive result. There is a very slight amount of chromatic aberrations visible. At the full frame corner, you can see that f2.8 is slightly soft. You need to stop down to like f5, 6 to get the optimum, and you can see that you have a bit of chromatic aberrations as well. And I did some other tests, just a quick shots, wide open, and I found that around 75 to 110 is where it's just really good. I was really happy with those results.
So do you like it? Because between you and me, you're the one who just zooms most of the time.
Yeah, because you know, when you're going out for landscapes, then you want to get a zoom lens for many reasons. First, you don't need to change the lenses because conditions are usually not lens change friendly, and you just don't want to go with hundreds of lenses.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and you know, when you're just walking around, then a zoom, especially like this one, it's more than 4 times zoom. It will help you to not need to put down the backpack, take out the lens, change the lens, put back the backpack. So that's a loss of time, and especially if you carry a tripod as well, then it's just a loss of hassle. But if you have a zoom like this, you just use this one, and it's much easier. So yeah, I'm really happy with it.
So while we still have this prototype lens, we are going to create a few more contents with it.
We already did.
No, we're still gonna create it. It's still not done.
Yeah, that, you know,
No, it is not done yet.
Yeah, we're gonna make some nudge. So once we have the final version, we're gonna make a full review as well, pixel peeping, all the goodies you want. So leave a comment below what you wanna see on the full version review. What shall we test for you? What's the things you wanna know about the lens? So we will gladly do that if we can. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss those videos we still gonna make.
Yeah, we're still
I think
gonna
we
make
should
them.
do one shoot with Anna and maybe one with Kyle.
Yeah, we're gonna contact them.
Yeah, we're gonna. It's not filmed yet. Alright, this video is getting too silly now. Just stop it. Alright, bye.
So that's the end of this lens preview. Thank you so much for watching. If you still haven't, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you guys on our next video.
I wanted to say this. I have a nice deep voice.
Bye. It's black now.
Never let me do these things.